We now have a presentation from the TSA. I'm going to invite our Chief Executive, Allison Schofield, to the stage to set out some of the actions and plans that the TSA has for the coming year, both to deliver the white paper vision, but also to begin to move the organisation on into a new position.
As we come in, how can I repeat from this? We've had leaders on the stage for the last 2 days. 4 years ago, when we went into the business plan, we really didn't know. We weren't heard, we didn't have a voice, and I guaranteed you, as the tech community, that that was my intention and my ambition for us, delivering services on the ground, to get a voice. So now we're coming to the end of the business plan. We need to take that leadership role to the next level. Everybody you've heard from in the last 2 days, having David Behan on this stage supporting our standards, having Beverly Bryant and Liz and others, the people we're truly working with. That's very different to 4 years ago, and certainly to our organisation as we go back 21 years. We've been around a long time, but we've been an industry that haven't been heard. We were in the background, we're seen as a poor relation. Well, not anymore. Tech needs to be fundamental to that change we've just heard from NHS England. That MyMS in the middle that says they're not putting patients first. We say the words, but we don't really mean it. TSA, from the Technology-Enabled Care, is delivering services on the ground to people. And our white paper says, put the people first. Embed quality and safety around every service provision and make it matter for those individuals. So you can see that our logos, we were social alarms. Then we moved into TSA, telecare, but we need to now move forward. Technology-enabled care is much broader than just telecare. It's lots of devices, but it's that wraparound care and what it makes a difference to the system. We've done a lot over the last 4 years, and we could never get that voice. You know, I've shouted loud, you've got Beverly down there, that I've never give up, because I want that voice for you, delivering those services, so that it really makes a difference. And we can't do it without our partners. So all those people along the bottom, there's many more. They don't just put their logo to the TSA anymore. They sign MOUs, they commit to work. The white paper you heard yesterday, we've got lots of influential people starting to listen. What have we done over the last 4 years? We've done a lot of things. So we've lobbied, we've got government, we've got, you know, Paul Burstow. And I say it on every single stage. I feel very lucky and proud that an ex-minister wants to come to this sector and believe in what we do. But we need to do more. We haven't done enough. Paul and I are now looking at our new strategy about how we campaign harder. How can we get our voice heard? And the partnerships have to continue. So as we sign the MOUs, we have to start delivering against those ambitions. And the biggest piece of work that we've done over the last few years is the quality standards framework. You heard yesterday, safety and security and making sure we keep people safe and deliver outcomes is really important. The quality standards framework needs to be endorsed by government. We need to step up and try and get a mandate for that. Otherwise, we'll always be that nice to have. We haven't got the £1,000, we haven't got the £2,000, but people are dying. That's not good enough anymore. Quality standard framework needs to step up and government needs to take some notice. We've always influenced technology standards, so you've heard from BT. I don't want to go into the BT 21CN and nor do BT, where the sector, me included, delivering service delivery, didn't have a clue. We started buying lots of technology. We went out there and rushed and got some budgets to do things that we led in a direction that never happened. This will not happen this time. TSA will take that white paper, will work with Ofcom, and will make sure that you get the messaging and the clarity that you need for your procurers, but more importantly, service providers out there delivering safe services. TSA will lead that way. And we'll develop all those training networks. You've got all the training, the e-learning that we're delivering now, but we'll continue to do that. But the market is really changing, and TSA needs to be a market making. We need to step up and lead the future. So you've heard, you know, from all the speakers this morning, leadership's really important. On day one, I spoke about it's okay having leaders in government, having leaders in a strategic capacity, but you and I, all of us out there are leaders. We have to go back to those localities. We'll have to go back after these 2 days and make things happen. And if people don't listen, come back to the TSA, come back to our partners, and we'll help you and support you in that journey. We've all got to really go out there and be brave and bold, because if we don't, 4 years' time, 2 years' time, we'll still have the mess there and we'll still not be making the impact. I think we've come a long way as a sector, but we've got a long way to go. So we talked about a lot of challenges. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have on this plenary and conference, we'd always talk about the burning platforms. And I don't want to hear about that anymore. There is lots and lots of challenges. But without challenges to test us, like we've heard, taking risks, how can we really express and then move into those opportunities? People in our society deserve more. My dad, you know, he's just got mixed vascular dementia. We heard about that at the start of conference. He wants something different out of our system, and every one of us in this room and in this sector needs to find a way of doing that and delivering it. But to do it and to lead the change, TSA needs to change as an organisation. We need to start changing the form, the structure of who we are, so we can embrace quality standards framework, and we're going to create 2 arms. The parent company will look after all of the membership activity, it'll look at the transformational opportunities, it'll look after all the commercial things that, you know, getting support, getting funding. And that new organisation, still keeping the TSA brand, will form into Tech Services Association. Because we don't want to just be telecare. We want to be embracing all of those technologies and what technology-enabled care really enables us to do. The key objectives of that parent organisation would be driving the growth of the industry. How many years have we said 1.7 million? Too long. We need to grow it, we need to understand it, we need to take it forward. We need to increase the impact and the reach. We're starting to do that. The speakers on the stage, like we've said, are recognising our industry, but let's do better. We do need to ensure that we're commercially, to do this vision, to have this white paper, you know it's going to take money. We need to find that money. We need to become more commercially savvy, and we need to generate income to reinvest back into this non-profit organisation. And finally, we need to ensure that the quality standards framework is fit for purpose, but then it recognises compliance across the sector. The subsidiary arm will be the standards arm of the organisation. We understand, as we've grown over 21 years, how important it is. You heard from David Beahan yesterday how he said we're going to map regulation into standards. He's supporting that piece of work. We're doing all that work there, but we need to be independent. So we're creating a subsidiary arm that is independent from the parent company. It will have an independent board of directors at a really senior level. Paul and I are starting to talk to people who could form that board. Underneath the board, there will be a technical steering group, which will have all the industry and our members involved in shaping the direction. We'll also have a service steering board, but the board itself that sets the standards will be independent to the TSA. And the inspection process will also be independent. That new company is going to call, the subsidiary will be called Tech Quality Standards Limited. But to do that, the key objectives of that is endorsement. Get recognised, get it, like Corgi. How did Corgi, when that disaster happened in 1968, did they go straight to registration? No, they had 20 years of being Corgi, making sure they took the journey, but they got it mandated. That's going to take a lot of courage and a lot of ambition, but that's our ambition for this new part of the business. But to do that and make our inspectors that go out there, our auditors, credible, the training, and make sure that we're delivering quality, services around the inspection process, we're going to become accredited to UCAS Centre. And that means they'll come in and inspect us, just like they do you, on how ethically do we work, how are we redesigning all the quality standards framework, and that work's starting now. Next steps. Today is when we start the consultation as we form the new organisation. If we're going to do in that white paper what we've set out to do, the challenges, this business needs to be different. So the consultation will go out immediately from today, but we'll need to look at our vision as a joint organisation, then look at the mission statements. You'll be involved in that process up until the end of the year. We'll need to look at the internal operations and make sure, once again, we're fit for purpose and we've got that resource. And then we'll give our delivery plan, an operational plan, and you'll all be included in that consultation. We'll have an AGM on the 1st of December. At that time, we're hoping that everything's in order and our membership is ready to go ahead and approve the transfers of the assets. I believe this is TSA leading, inspiring, and directing the tech industry. And now we're on our new journey. And everything that you've heard over the last couple of days, we really need to start delivering. This is the new structure, you know, when we come together, connecting people, improving lives, a digital future for technology-enabled care. That's been the theme. It's very ambitious, it's very bold, and it's very brave. We're ready for this challenge. But we've heard a lot today about being prepared. Every single leadership speech has been prepare. Know where you're going and know what the end goal is. What will 2020 look like for tech? I believe we have it in the white vision and the white paper, but we need every single one of you to support me on this journey. And I promise you, like I did 4 years ago, that we'll see a massive shift in how we're recognised across the whole landscape. We've talked about partnerships, and we have one of it, you know, for many years we've worked with the emergency services, but my membership used to say, but how can we get to that national level? CFOA and the new organisation, National Fire Chief Council, we've signed a formal MOU and done a lot of work around the British standards, around, you know, connection standards, but we're going to make that formal. Last week I went to the Fire Council's main conference and we signed a formal MOU. But I really want to do it on this stage to prove to you that the partnerships are real. They're there, we're doing it, we're working with ACE and others, and I'd like to welcome Neil Bolster to the stage now to formally get some photographs with the MOU. Thank you.
Just a couple of words while I'm up here. It does give me great pleasure to represent the National Fire Chiefs Council with this MOU. The National Fire Chiefs Council supports and advises the UK Fire and Rescue Service. And one of the key areas that you're probably aware the Fire Service really focuses on is supporting the vulnerable within society. This MOU looks at two particular strands. One of them is exchanging information. So it's about, for example, picking up on fires in telecare fitted premises, perhaps data relating to the application and the use of telecare. Secondly, though, it's around improving standards, and this is very important to the National Fire Chiefs Council and understandably to the TSA. This is in two areas. Firstly, physical. So, for example, training across call centres, across fire and rescue service control rooms, so they can all work very well together in responding to different calls. And the second is technical, agreeing and improving the relevant British standards and supporting the implementation of these into the quality standards framework. Working together for competency and training for all, and this is reflected through this MOU. Thank you.
Obviously, Let's give. There's a lot of work going locally with the fire services, and there's a workshop this afternoon, so please go along and hear about the amazing work we're doing with fire, and that's where we can really start, you know, every day, every week we hear about deaths, you know, coroner's reports. We need to stop that. This MOU will start to gel all the work that we're doing with fire services and really make our services much more safer on the ground. And now we're on to the final, you know, plenary session where our president, Paul Burstow, talks about, you've got the ambition for the organisation, you see what I need to do, and I need to step up in leadership, and we need to take that step into the future. But let's hear about the white paper and how we're going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison. And what I'm going to do is start with some feedback, actually. We've been doing a survey throughout the conference, courtesy of our colleagues at PA Consulting. I've been constantly asking you to respond to this survey. We've had a good response rate. So what I'm going to be doing first is just sharing some of the results of that. Then I was going to say a little bit about the top 5 actions that the TSA is going to be taking to build on the analysis and the actions that we believe need to happen to support this transition from analog to digital. And then I'll just say a few words by way of bringing together some of the threads from today's session. So hopefully I'm going to click this button and that will appear. That's excellent. So we've asked a number of questions of you about your impressions about the sector's ability to build a compelling case for technology-enabled care. And we've analysed this by looking at those that, if you like, in the sector are service providers, equipment providers, and manufacturers, and those that are here. And we have a significant number of commissioners who've been in and out of our conference over the last 2 days, getting their perspective, and then contrasting those two things. So we've said, do the decision makers in your organisation believe there is a robust business case? Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, the private sector, those that are actually out there making that case for local authorities, for the NHS to adopt these technologies that you are offering, think absolutely there is such a case. But there is a gap, a significant gap. I think a gap we all know, a gap that your teams that are out there making this case must feel all of the time. And in the sense, it's a gap that we feel a bit when we hear some of the speeches that we've seen delivered on this stage by those at a national level leading the system who do get that compelling case, who do want to see that translated onto the ground, but as we heard just now from Keith Hill, are not looking perhaps to use command and control as the route by which it is delivered. But if it's not command and control, then it has to be making sure that we are providing a compelling story about how this technology can transform lives and enable people to have better lives as a result. So that, I think, is a really interesting finding and certainly something that the TSA needs to be working on over the coming weeks and months. The second question we asked was really about commissioning organisations, what we found with this question was they're not really fully convinced about the need to invest more. So we asked, do the decision makers in your organisation support investing more in care technology? And again, obviously, we find a significant gap between the position of the public sector. And I reflect on the speech we heard today from Glenn Garrard, the incoming president of the Association of Directors of Social Services. And although over the last couple of years, TSA has built a better, closer relationship with that association and the directors, I think we must do more over the coming year to really deepen that relationship, to translate it into one where directors, when they gather and we talk to them, actually translate those messages into action and leadership in their organisations. Because we're seeing across the country, we're seeing at this conference in the breakout sessions, plenty of examples at a local level that are making a difference. But we need mass localism, if you like, that scales these things, moves these things around the country. So I think there is, again, that gap that we have to be working on and closing. We then asked some questions about priorities across the sector, and this led to this question, top 5 priorities that people in this audience, whether you're commissioners from the public sector, whether you're organisations in the private sector, are the top priorities. So better service user outcomes, partnership working and integrated care, which again, been a very strong theme of this event, technology innovation, engagement and a culture of change. Again, a very powerful part of the message at this event, and quality assurance being part of that. But then when we asked about expectations amongst providers about the capability to deliver this, whether providers could do this, again, we found a very clear disparity. So I think what we have here is a very useful, quite timely, very immediate gap analysis that points to us in terms of what else we need to be doing with our partners, with the Innovation Agency and others to help close this gap. Because as Liz was talking about in her presentation earlier, there are places that are ahead of the curve, or at least on the curve when it comes to this agenda. But there are still many places who are deeply weighed down with the day-to-day business as usual, skeptical and not very engaged. And we need to break through that. And I think these slides and the survey are really very helpful. I'm very grateful to PA Consulting to help with the analysis of that and doing the number crunching. And these will be things we'll be sharing subsequently. So, just final thing I should say is I think part of the inducement to be involved in this was that there was a prize. And I can announce, as it says on the screen, that John England from KeySafe has won an Amazon Echo Dot. So if you're here, don't rush out to get it now. It will be there available later on. But please do go to the exhibition. So right, next steps. Let me just say a bit about the next steps from the white paper. There are 5 things that the TSA has identified as being the things that we as an organisation have to be doing on your behalf, but alongside you as well. The first of those is we need to be working with Ofcom, and I hope we've demonstrated by the fact that Ofcom have been at this event, that we've had BT here as well, that we are already establishing those relationships. They are the building blocks that we can use to help make sure that we're communicating clearly and in a timely fashion with you about the ongoing changes and the developments. And I think we've done some of that at this event, but that's an ongoing part of the work for the coming years ahead. Secondly, we've identified that there is a cost associated with this transition. We've come up with some estimates. We're going to test those estimates to make sure they are robust. But we do believe we have to lobby government to, A, make sure government is aware of this challenge, of this opportunity, but also their role in coordination and their role in providing some resource in kind or in cash to enable us to manage this transition. And we also, and again, I think on this stage very clearly demonstrated, need to and are building relationships with the standard setters and the regulators as well. And we've built that dialogue with David Bean and with others in the Care Quality Commission. We need to be doing the same with the other home nation regulators and really making sure that there is no gap, or if there is a gap, we understand it and speak about that gap between regulation and standards, and that we provide the necessary guidance ahead of any changes in technical standards and other standards that take place. So that's the third area. And fourthly, we want to work with you to support you in thinking through how you mitigate risk and how you plan for these changes. We need to create with the sector a coherent plan of engagement with the sector and how we manage and navigate this digital migration. And then finally, we want to be working with the tech services system providers, and the aim there is really to pick up this point that I talked about yesterday when we launched the white paper about how we really reach for the opportunities that digital offers in terms of new functionality, moving from the idea of digital just being the channel, but actually to the intervention, how we use digital in different ways, how we help all of us on that journey, and again, the opportunities to partner with the AHSN network and others to take that forward. So those were the slides that I was going to put up, and I just want to say thank you to you for listening to that. We've heard some really, I think, very important messages today. We've heard the challenge from Keith Hill about the need to reimagine health and care, that we're talking about people, not systems, and it's about connecting people. We heard at the beginning Dame Philippa saying that this was not about the onward march of the robots. It was actually about increasing connectivity between people. I loved Keith's contribution about the demise of command and control, and I have to say I will be pinching that slide of the bird stand. I think that's a fantastic way of communicating that. But I can't help but reflect that the current standoff between the NHS and social care over delayed transfers of care is an absolutely perfect example of everything that's wrong in the system at the moment. That command and control tendency is absolutely the set of behaviours that sit behind the standoff that we're seeing at the moment. And in a sense, I hope that the message that Keith is delivering to us is a message that perhaps is taken to heart by other system leaders as well. Again, I think we've had so many powerful stories over the last 48 hours and more still to come in the breakout sessions later on today. And that use of story and narrative to help mobilise and move people is a really important part of what the TSA needs to do more of and wants to do more of. I think if you haven't gone away with one word that you will lodge in your brains from these 2 days, it's the word disruption and disruptors. And I think we've had some fantastic advocacy about what that means and why it is not something to fear, but something to embrace. And again, don't go away from this event and think, that's that done, park that. Think about how you engage with us at the TSA to be on that journey and get support from the TSA to do it. And Glenn Garrett, I think, rightly articulated the truth about social care funding. We do not have a state-funded social care system. We have a state-subsidised social care system in this country. And science references have been used on a number of occasions today, and I would just use one to describe what he was talking about the almost 50% of our population who use social care services in this country who do not cross the threshold of their town hall to engage with their local authority because they are paying for their care themselves. And local authorities, they are another country. They are the dark matter of the social care system. People do not really understand who they are, where they are, and indeed, as a result of that, we don't necessarily provide the right offer to them. And we heard from Beverly a really passionate clarion call for passion and for usability, interoperability, and for delightful digital solutions. And I would just add one other word which comes from yesterday and which comes from that very powerful video that Anne Cooper shared with us of empathy, that it's not about the technology, it's about the people. So really just to conclude the plenary part of this conference, you've heard Alyson lay out the change of the way in which the organisation is going to be governed, much clearer clarity about this being an independent organisation working for this sector, but not in the pocket of any part of this sector, and therefore able to champion the progress and the case for technology-enabled care with purpose and with passion. And if we are to do that, we need all of you to step up, not just in your own businesses, not just to deliver your own ideas into practice, but actually to make sure this organisation that is here for you is able and equipped to do the job you want it to do. And I'll be blunt. That means more resources. It means the cash and the helping kind that enable us to operate at the scale you require us to operate at so that your ambition of technology-enabled care in this country being at scale can be realised. If we don't do that, then the opportunities and the aspirations and the hopes that are bottled up in this room and are bottled up in this conference won't be realised. So that's my challenge to you. I hope you've had a really fantastic conference. I hope you will go away feeling stimulated, challenged, and informed. I hope you enjoy the exhibition, which is open for some hours to come, and I hope you enjoy the breakout groups. But thank you very much for your attention and your time today. Thank you.